Kal Halalim, Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai, Ba'asham, Kodash, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Today's topic's gonna be on who was Esau. I got a book here, Who Was Esau Edom? Let me show it. By Charles A. Wiseman, could be pronouncing it wrong. Alright. The Jews of today fall within two main types, the Sephardic Jew and the Ashkenazi Jew. The Sephardim are also known as Spanish Jews. The Sephardim are actual real Israelites. Portugal and Spain, they got pushed out by Esau. The Ashkenazi Jews, they're not Ashkenazi because Ashkenazi descend from Japhet, who lived in the lands of Europe. But Esau came and occupied Japhet's land, Europe. And that's why they're known as the Ashkenaz now. But the original Ashkenaz are Japhet. The Sephardim are also known as Spanish Jews and constitute about 5% of the Jews in the world. The Ashkenazim are the East European Jews, which were found in Poland, Russia, Germany, and Western Asia. This group of Jews make up 90% of the so-called Jews in the world. Many reference and historical sources have unequivocally identified that the bulk of the Ashkenazi Jews were derived from a people known as Khazars or Khazars. How do you pronounce it? Khazars or Khazars. In some texts, the original Jewish Encyclopedia of 1905 revealed that the main stock of the Jews came from this Asiatic people known as Khazars or Khazars. Khazars, a people of Turkish origin whose life and history are interwoven with the very beginnings of the history of the Jews of Russia. Historical evidence points to the region of the Urals as the home of the Khazars. Alright, go over. Yeah, go over to the other side. There. The Khazars were a nomadic people who had no traces of Hebraic culture. They had been following a pagan and sex-oriented religion until they had officially embraced Judaism in 740 AD, while rejecting Christianity and Mohammedanism. The Jewish author and historian Arthur Koestler also concludes that the majority of East European Jews and hence of world Jewry is of Khazar and not of Semitic origin. In the beginning of his book, he states the large majority of surviving Jews in the world is of Eastern European and thus perhaps mainly of Khazar origin. If so, this would mean that their ancestors came not from the Jordan but from the Volga, not from Canaan but from the Caucasus, and that genetically they are more closely related to the Hun, Uriger, how you pronounce that, and Magyar tribes than to the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Koestler then devotes the remainder of his 255-page book to prove this premise. For instance, a record of a letter by a Khazar king shows that he traced his people to Noah's son Japhet, not Shem, and to Japhet's grandson Tog Arma, the ancestor of all Turkish tribes. Now, Arthur Koestler believed that they came from Japhet. They didn't. They just occupied Japhet's lands, but they come from the line of Shem, the Edomites. The Khazar government was destroyed by the Slavs of Russia in 1016 AD. Around 1200 AD, the land was invaded by the hordes of Genghis Khan. These two events caused large numbers of Khazars to migrate to Poland and western Russia, forming the cradle of Western Jewry. There is an abundance of ancient place names in the Ukraine and Poland which derive from Khazar or Zid, Jew, meaning Jew. As the Khazars left their homeland of Khazaria and migrated north and west, they lost their name and became known as Jews. Their Yiddish language and alphabet is not that of the Israelites, Phoenician Greek style, but an amalgamation of Aramaic, medieval German, Slovak, and Russian dialects. The best historical evidence, therefore, shows that the Jews are not descended directly from the Israelites of the Bible, but derive much of their ancestry from the Khazars and other people of Turkish Asiatic blood. The Khazars are also of Edomite stock, and both stocks make up the present-day Jews, as the historian H.G. Wells states. The Idumeans, Edomites, were made Jews, and a Turkish people, Khazars, were mainly Jews in South Russia. The main part of Jewry never was in Judea. It had never come out of Judea. According to the Jewish Encyclopedia, the original stock of the Khazars came from the land of Edom. Oh, didn't realize I was reading from something else. There it is on the screen. All right. Now, the original Hebrew language is Paleo Hebrew, and yeah. Got another book here, Arthur Koestler, could be pronounced it wrong, but you just saw him in another book written by the other man, the 13th Tribe. So, here's a thing from the book. I believe it's on the back of the book. You flip it over. Now, let me read it. This book traces the history of the ancient Khazar Empire, a major but also forgotten power in Eastern Europe, which in the Dark Ages became converted to Judaism. Khazaria was finally wiped out by the forces of Genghis Khan, but evidence indicates that the Khazars themselves migrated to Poland and formed the cradle of Western Jewry. Slovakia phone storage ran out. Alright. Where was I? I forgot. Let me check. Alright. Start here, but evidence indicates that the Khazars themselves migrated to Poland and formed the cradle of Western Jewry. Let me zoom in here. Okay. Wait, that's probably going to be flipped on the screen. Well, it is. To the general reader, the Khazars, who flourished from the 7th to the 11th century, might seem infinitely remote today, yet they have a close and unexpected bearing on our world, which emerges as Mr. Koestler recounts the fascinating history of the ancient Khazar Empire, a major but almost forgotten power in Eastern Europe. Now, if you go back to that book, it should be over here. Find it. Here it is. And alright. The Ashkenazim are the East European Jews, which were found in Poland, Russia, Germany, and Western Asia. This group of Jews make up 90% of the so-called Jews in the world. And you go on to read, where was I? Fascinating history. All right, recounts the. Make sure you can see. I'm not reading from here. Recounts the fascinating history of the ancient Khazar Empire, a major but almost forgotten power in Eastern Europe at about the time of Charlemagne was emperor in the West. Don't pronounce Jarl, whatever that is. His name. Don't know how to pronounce his name, I should say. Whatever that is. The Khazars' sway extended from the Black Sea to the Caspian, from the Caucasus to the Volga, and they were instrumental in stopping the Muslim onslaught against Byzantium, the eastern jaw of the gigantic pincer movement that in the west swept across northern Africa and into Spain. Thereafter, the Khazars found themselves in a precarious position between the two major world powers, the Eastern Roman Empire and Byzantium. Those were the actual Israelites, the Byzantine, and the triumphant followers of Muhammad, the Ishmaelites, Ishmael. Oh, just to clarify myself, and I might be correcting myself. The Eastern Roman Empire and Byzantium was ruled by Israelites, the Byzantine Empire. If you didn't know that, they were ruled by actual, true Israelites. Yeah. And the triumphant followers of Muhammad, Ishmael. Going on, it reads, and the triumphant followers of Muhammad, Ishmael. As Mr. Kostler points out, the Khazars were the third world of their day, and they chose a surprising method of resisting both the Western pressure to become Christian and the Eastern to adopt Islam. Rejecting both, they converted to Judaism. That's what the Khazars did, the so-called Jews of today. In the second part of this book, The Heritage, Mr. Kostler speculates about the ultimate fate of the Khazars and their impact on the racial composition and social heritage of modern Jewry. He produces a large body of meticulously detailed research in support of a theory that sounds all the more convincing for the restraint with it is advanced. So yeah, the modern day Jewish people are Khazars. Alright, and there's another book. The Roman Empire. The Empire of the Edomite. Alright, let's see. Amazon. William Beeston, could be pronouncing it wrong. Right, I don't know what happened, but I'm back. Where is it? Slovakia. Here it is. Let me get something. I can read it. Strong evidence that the Roman Empire is of Edomite origin left our minds in bewilderment is one to be studied. Church of England Quarterly Review. William Beeston. What? I didn't even touch anything. Okay, I didn't even touch anything. Why did... William Beeston, in his book, The Roman Empire, the Empire of the Edomite, contends that the Roman Empire was of Edomite origin, displaying a great amount of research into ancient documents and traditions, and gives some sound expositions of a few obscure parts of the sacred oracles. The Hebrew word Edom means red, and is derived from the name of its founder, Esau, the eldest son of the Hebrew patriarch Isaac. Because he was born red all over as an adult, he sold his birthright to his brother Jacob for red pottage. The Tanakh describes the Edomites as descendants of Esau. Now, the descendants of Esau are the Edomites. Yeah, the Edomites are the descendants of Esau. Perhaps referencing this familial connection, the Old Testament commands, teach it for another day. Edom was an ancient kingdom and Transjordan, located between Moab to the northeast, the Arabah to the west, and the Arabian Desert to the south and east. Most of its former territory is now divided between Israel and Jordan. Edom appears in written sources relating to the late Bronze Age and to the Iron Age in the Levant, such as the Hebrew Bible and Egyptian and Mesopotamian records. At the time of its publication, Baston's research overturned in the minds of some long-standing notions concerning the origin of the Roman Empire, or at least cast considerable doubt upon them. His scholarship and peculiar line of investigation enabled him to adduce some strong evidence that the Roman Empire is of Edomite origin. Wow, Edomite origin. The Roman Empire is of Edomite origin. The grounds upon which he conducted his inquiry are Jewish tradition, Hebrew and Phoenician etymology, and scripture prophecy, bringing to bear upon each branch some confirmatory evidence from either heathen historians or Christian philologists. The book is worthy of attention and is one to be studied, not glanced at all. Black Hebrew Israelites, also called Black Hebrews, African Hebrew Israelites, and Hebrew Israelites are groups of black people who believe that they are descendant of the ancient Israelites, which is true, through Bible prophecy. Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, through the Holy Spirit, has revealed through Bible prophecy that that's true. And secular history. One is which is the translated slave trade, Deuteronomy 28. That's one example of Bible prophecy and secular history. Are groups of black Americans who believe that they are descendants of the ancient Hebrews, that they are descendants of the ancient Israelites. Salakia. Black Hebrews adhere in varying degrees to the religious beliefs and practices of both Christianity and Judaism. One belief often expressed is belief that Europeans are descendants of Israel's twin brother, Esau, also known as Edom. Ooh, Europeans. Go back to that book. What was it? I believe the book's name was Who is Esau? Edom. Yeah, it was that one. Let me go there. So, Europeans. What did that say? Let me go back. Alright. Europeans are Edomites. Now, what does this say over here? The Ashkenazim are the East European Jews, which are found in Poland, Russia, Germany, and Western Asia. This group of Jews make up 90% of the so-called Jews of the world. So the Europeans are the so-called Jewish people now. 90%. Now, same book. Where is it? Oh, 90% of the Jews, 90% of the so-called Jews today are those East European Jews, which were found in Poland, Russia, Germany, and Western Asia. Many reference and historical sources have unequivocally identified that the bulk of the Ashkenazi Jews, those 90% so-called Jewish people today, identified that the bulk of the Ashkenazi Jews were derived from a people known as Khazars or Khazars in some texts. Wow. The original Jewish Encyclopedia of 1905 revealed that the main stock of the Jews came from this Asiatic people known as Khazars or Khazars. Khazars, a people of Turkish origin, the Turks are Edomites too, whose life and history are interwoven with the very beginnings of the history of the Jews of Russia. Historical evidence points to the region of the Urals as the home of the Khazars. Could be pronouncing Kaisers wrong, but anyway, you can read it too here. Now, the best historical evidence therefore shows that the Jews are not directly descended, are not descended directly from the Israelites of the Bible. Shows that the Jews are not descended directly from the Israelites of the Bible, but derive much of their ancestry from the Khazars and other people of Turkish Asiatic blood. The Khazars are also of Edomite stock, and those stalks make up the present-day Druze. The present-day Jews, as the historian H.G. Wells states, the Idumeans, Edomites, were made Jews, and a Turkish people, Khazars, were mainly Jews in South Russia. The main part of Jewry never was in Judea, and had never come out of Judea. According to the Jewish Encyclopedia, the original stock of the Khazars came from the land of Edom. Right there. Proof. Where is it? Alright, some so-called Jews. 90% of the so-called Jewish people today come from Khazars. Khazars. So them so-called Jewish people today are Khazars. Now wait a minute. Who them Khazars? Who the Khazars? Well, according to the Jewish Encyclopedia, the original stock of the Khazars came from the land of Edom. So the Khazars are Edomites. But the so-called Jewish people's Khazars too. Which means that them so-called Jewish people are Edomites. They're not the true Israelites of the Bible. Oh my. What did that man say in his book? Now, what did this thing say? Book overview. I think it's on the back of the book. Yeah, I think it is. Strong evidence that the Roman Empire is of Edomite origin. So the Roman Empire, they were Edomites too. Is of Edomite origin. Left our minds in bewilderment is one to be studied. Church of England Quarterly Review. So their minds got left in bewilderment when they found the Roman Empire was Edomites. Now the so-called Jewish people are Edomites too. Wow. Now, who was... I think it's Esau's grandson. And Eli, Toma, Timna was... Oh, let me find it. And yeah, these so-called white people are Edomites. These so-called Caucasian people are Edomites. Wow. Wow. Now, now, some sort of way to put video stuff. I don't know what happened. I could have mentioned this point already, but I'll mention it again. Kostler then devotes the remainder of his 255-page book to prove this premise. You could read that premise. It's on... I can reread it again. Alright. This thing ain't working. The origin of the Jews. The Jews of today fall within two main types. The Sephardic Jew and the Ashkenazi Jew. The Sephardim are also known as Spanish Jews. Those are actual Israelites. Where were they? I forgot. I wrote it down. They were Sephardim. Yeah, they're the real Jews. They were pushed out of Portugal and Spain by Esau. The Sephardim are also known as Spanish Jews. They're the real Israelites, not Esau. They were pushed out of Portugal and Spain by Esau, and constitute about 5% of the Jews in the world. And the Ashkenazim are the East European Jews. Now, Ashkenaz was one of the descendants of Japheth. Esau pushed out Japheth and took over where Japheth was, and that's why they're called Ashkenaz. They're not originally Ashkenaz. Ashkenazi is originally from Japheth, not Esau. They went in there, took the land of Japheth. They went in there, pushed Japheth out of Europe, where he was, took over. Now they're called Ashkenazi Europeans, but it's originally Japheth, not Esau. Pushed Japheth out of his lands. Now they got his identity as Ashkenazi Europeans, but there's really Japheth, not Esau. The Ashkenazim are the East European Jews, which were found in Poland, Russia, Germany, and Western Asia. This group of Jews make up 90% of the so-called Jews in the world. Many reference and historical sources have unequivocally identified that the bulk of the Ashkenazi Jews were derived from a people known as Khazars, or Khazars in some texts. The original Jewish Encyclopedia of 1905 revealed that the main stock of the Jews came from this Asiatic people known as Khazars or Khazars. Khazars, a people of Turkish origin whose life and history are interwoven with the very beginnings of the history of the Jews. The historical evidence points to the region of the Urals as the home of the Khazars. The Khazars were a nomadic people who had The Khazars were a nomadic people who had no traces of Hebraic culture. They had been following a pagan and sex-oriented religion until they had officially embraced Judaism in 740 AD. While rejecting Christianity and Mohammedanism, the Jewish author and historian Arthur Koestler also concludes that the majority of East European Jews, and hence of world Jewry, is of Khazar and not of Semitic origin. In the beginning of his book, he states. Now, Esau does have come from the line of Shem. He was Jacob's brother. Japheth did not come from the line of Shem, which makes sense. Yes, Esau went in there, kicked Japheth out of Europe, took over where Japheth was, and now he ended up getting known as Ashkenazi Europeans, Esau. Esau is of Shem descendants, Jacob's brother. And not of Semitic origin. In the beginning of his book, he states, the large majority of surviving Jews in the world is of Eastern European and thus perhaps mainly of Khazar origin. If so, this would mean that their ancestors came not from the Jordan, but from the Volga, not from Canaan, but from the Caucasus, and that genetically they are more closely related to the Hun, Yegar, and Magyar tribes than to the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Koestler then devotes the remainder of his 255-page book to prove this premise. For instance, a record of a letter by a Khazar king shows that he traced his people to Noah's son, Japheth, not Shem, and to the Japheth's grandson, Togarmah, the ancestor of all Turkish people. No, Esau is from Shem, not Japheth. They took Japheth out of Europe, went in there. They just lived in the Japheth land. They weren't Japhites, even though Arthur Coaswell believed that. Okay. The Khazar government, the ancestor of all Turkish tribes, the Khazar government was destroyed by the Slavs of Russia in 1016 AD. Around 1200 AD, the land was invaded by hordes of Genghis Khan. These two events caused large numbers of Khazars to migrate to Poland and Western Russia, forming the cradle of Western Jewry. There was an abundance of ancient places. There was an abundance of ancient place names in the Ukraine and Poland, which derive from Khazar or Zid. Jew. Wow. As the Khazars left their homeland of Khazaria, and migrated north, migrated north and west, they lost their name and became known as Jews. The Yiddish alphabet is not that of the Israelites, Phoenician Greek style. The Israelites spoke Paleo Hebrew. But in Ama, but in amalgamation of Aramaic, medieval German, Slavic, and Russian dialects. The best historical evidence, therefore, shows that the Jews are not descended directly from the Israelites of the Bible, but derive much of their ancestry from Khazars. Modern day Jewish people, much of their ancestry from the Khazars, Edomites, from the Khazars, and other people of Turkish Asiatic blood, Turks, Edomites too. The Khazars are also of Edomite stock, and both stocks make up the present-day Jews. As the historian H.G. Wells states, the Idumeans, Edomites, made Jews, and a Turkish people, Khazars, were mainly Jews in South Russia. The main part of Jewry never was in Judea and had never come out of Judea. According to the Jewish Encyclopedia, the original stock of the Khazars came from the land of Edom. All right.